Hello art parents, welcome to November and welcome to another artist from the late 1800s. I kind of realized that my bias for that time period is showing. However, even though our artist for this month was a contemporary of Edvard Munch, their work is very different. So it'll be an interesting, fun project for the kids. This is Henri Matisse, and he was born in northern France in 1869, and he was really kind of your average upper middle class guy. He went to law school. His father was a wealthy grain merchant. He's kind of from a farming area, and just kind of, average non-history making kind of guy until he had appendicitis when he was about 20. And was in the hospital for a few months. And while he was in the hospital, his mom brought him a set of paints to keep busy. And he said when he was painting, he found a kind of paradise. That's how he describes it in his diaries. And I love that. I think it's fantastic. I think it's also a great example of, just following your dream and doing what you want to do, because after he got better, he went to Paris to study art, much to his father's dismay. He left his nice, boring, stable, good earning job and became an artist. Here you can see an example of his early work. It's really nice. He was a proficient artist right from the get-go. That's how he was described, was proficient. Nothing, groundbreaking or super different, but good eye, nice work. And then when he was in 1906, he met Vincent van Gogh and just immediately fell in love with the vibrant colors and the new way of painting of the Impressionists. And he kind of took that and assimilated it into his work and then ran with it and really became one of the fathers of modern art. He wasn't considered an Impressionist. He was post-impressionistic. He was considered a Fauvist. And I didn't put that into the biography because I kind of feel like that's the kind of detail the kids don't really remember. Although, thinking about it now, Fauvist means beast. Excuse me. So the critics termed the Fauvists' work when they did a showing together, including this piece, Portrait of a Lady with a Hat. They termed it beastly or Fauvist, and the painters that showed during that time said, yeah, we can work with that, we're wild beasts, which I love. It was the same thing for the Impressionists. Originally, calling them Impressionists was a criticism from the critics, and those painters just said, fine, whatever, we're Impressionists, and ran with it. And now, that is one of the most lasting art movements that everybody remembers, right? So here's another sample of his painting. He was also a sculptor, and he made it through World War I, was able to stay in France. He considered moving to Brazil, but he felt like he couldn't abandon France. He said if everyone leaves, then France won't be France anymore. And so he was able to stay. Of course, he wasn't Jewish, so that makes it a little bit easier. Hitler didn't care for his work, but it wasn't banned. They kind of had a tacit truce. He had to sign some documentation that he was Aryan, but then he was fine. So he made it through the war, and then later in his life, he had abdominal cancer, and he was bedridden again. And he actually wasn't really in physical condition that he could paint or sculpt anymore. But what he could do was do these cutouts. He had done these a few other times for various projects, just a few times. And now he kind of started to explore these cutouts. And they started on a small scale originally, but it didn't take long before these cutouts became murals and room-sized projects. And they're really striking. It's really beautiful. So he would have his assistant, who was actually his mistress, paint big sheets of paper with watercolor, and then he would cut it out if he could manage it, or he would direct how he wanted it cut out and placed for the bigger murals. And ultimately, he even designed the stained glass for a small church, a small chapel on the French Riviera, which is where he settled. So Matisse did a ton of traveling. So you can see there's kind of a tribal influence in his work, right? He loved early Islamic art. He loved tribal art, African art especially. And you can kind of see that in his work. It's kind of fantastic. It's so happy. And it really is amazing to see these pieces on the full scale. They're really, it's just really beautiful. It's really breathtaking. So today we're going to create our own collages. It's easy to do. The kids have all done stuff like this before, but there are a few tips to make it a little bit more successful. So for kids that love to plan, and there are always those kids that kind of need a game plan, you can say, hey, make a map of what you're going to make. Just take one of these pieces of scrap paper, draw it out really quick with your pencil. Don't worry about getting the details. Don't make it too detailed. Just make a map of where you want to put things. And then for other kids, they can just start cutting and put it together, and that's fantastic. But you do really want to encourage them to put the pieces out, lay the pieces out on the paper before they glue them down. So before I glued things down, I just laid everything out. I was able to move it around. And then once I got it where I wanted it, I would pick up each piece, put the glue on, and put it back down. And it seems like whenever I work with kids when we're doing collage, always somebody just misses this step, and they end up getting a little bit frustrated because they're trying to pick off pieces that they've glued on and it's dried, and the piece gets ruined and the paper looks kind of grubby after they're done. So just tell them, just lay it out, and maybe I'll cut out some pieces and leave them on the art card that you can just show them, like lay it out, then glue it down. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can create some different textures by cutting and tearing. So to tear, this is super simple stuff, but just hold it down on the desk with one finger, and to kind of be able to control what you're doing, it's easiest if you just go ahead and hold it down and then rip it down, however you want to tear it. But it gives that kind of fun, interesting edge, depending on the paper you're using. You'll see more. You can see I kind of ripped some blue waves or something. I don't know. I was just experimenting, just having a good time. There'll be a simpler piece for the younger kids because we want to encourage those kids second grade and down to keep it pretty simple. If you show them something with a lot of little pieces, they might get a little bit frustrated. I don't know, second graders have pretty great motor skills. They're probably fine. But I'll have a simpler piece to show, and then the more complicated piece. And you trust your instincts. That's the best way to teach these lessons. You can kind of get a feel for their attention span, and if you've got them. And the same thing with the biography. If you tell them a handful of things about the artist, that's perfect. Anything you found interesting, you read and remembered, that's what you want to share with them, because that's what they're probably going to find interesting too. So don't get too stressed out about the details. This is meant to be fun. We're doing this for fun. If you have any questions or need anything at all, please let me know. If you've had a hard time getting a hold of your teacher, or last month's lesson didn't go great, or you feel nervous about anything, please don't hesitate. I'm here to support you. I'm so grateful you guys are doing it, and I hope you have an awesome experience this year. I love art literacy. This is my 4th year doing it, and it is just my favorite. It's so much fun, and I hope it will be for you too. Thanks so much.